Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. As you probably know, WWE Evolve, we're only 1 week away until we see the crowning of the first ever men's and women's Evolve championships. So anything could happen there. So we're now going to witness, of course, spots to being filled for the fatal four-way matches involving those championships and other things as well. And then, of course, our final review will be none other than AEW Dynamite. As you probably know already, we are now in the go home show before Double or Nothing. Anything could happen. As you know, we have the world title on the line. We have the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament in both men's and women's, but they will have a face off with each other throughout the entire night. And of course, we have the Anarchy Arena type of match taking place. But the real question, what kind of mayhem is going to be causing? That is something we're definitely going to see, and plenty other things as well. And as always, we will cap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, it's enough with the yapping. It's time to rock. So, let's begin with WWE Evolve. Okay, WWE Evolve. Now, as you know, we are now getting closer and closer to the crowning of the first ever Evolve Men's and Women's Championship. Now, as you probably know already, there were certain spots that were vacant, but in the women's side, we only have already one available. But the ones who already filled out the spots was Wendy Chu, Kendall Gray, and Carly Armstrong. But the real question is, who will take the final spot? Well, there was a bit of a fatal four-way qualifier match featuring Zeta Steele versus Aria Bennett versus Chantel Monroe versus Kylie Ray. Now, when it comes to Zeta Steele, for those who know, she and her little cohorts of buddies, known as Vanity Project, would do whatever it takes to claim that the Evolve is now their territory and they run the show. But, however, like any other situation, well, these jerk-offs got caught with their hands in the cookie jar and the ref just told them, "Get out of here." So, basically, they screwed themselves. But the real question is, now that Vanity Project is gone, what does this mean for Zeta Steele? I mean, we know she's a capable wrestler, but the problem is, Vanity Project were intending to make sure things go their way, but it did not. But when it comes to Fatal 4-Ways, it's all hell because you don't know how things is going to end. I mean, a part of me thought maybe, just maybe, it was going to be Chantel Monroe who was going to win it. But nope, I was wrong. The person who picked up the win was none other than Kylie Rae when she applied a super kick on Aria Bennett. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, she takes the final spot. So basically, now the battle line has been drawn for the Fatal 4-Way to become the first ever Evolve Women's Champion. It's going to be, of course, either Kylie Rae, Wendy Chu, Kylie Armstrong, or Kendall Gray. So that is something we will see down the road. Now, we did see a bit of a video promos between Keanu Carver and, of course, Harlan Lewis. As you know, these two guys are two alphas, are trying to determine who is going to be running this bitch up. So, they will be fighting for a spot, of course, in the Fatal 4-Way for the Men's Evolve Championship. So, we will see how that rolls up. Now, Oro Mensah, we haven't seen that moment for a while. Well, he was interviewed before his match with Chewy Armstrong, talking about the Fatal 4-Way and all this other stuff. But he will have to face against someone that we all know, Edris Enofe, as you know, who's been gone for 7 months. A week ago, he was shown into, of course, doing an interview with Chuy Martinez. Now, the real question is, we know Oro Mensah is a good wrestler, but when it comes to Edris Enofe, we know he's now been changing. But the real question we ask ourselves, how much ring rust does he have? I mean, that is one thing we have to pay attention. We haven't seen him for 7 months, and now that he's on his own, that is a good question. I have to say, Edris Enofe really pick up the pace and was able to pick up the win when he applied a elbow drop, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, he picked up the win. However, before he left the ringside, he actually got bumped in by Chuy Martinez to do a post-match interview with him about his comeback. But however, while that was happening, Stevie Turner appeared and informed him because of his win, he was selected to be taking one of the spots in the availability of the Fatal 4-Way match for the Men's Evolved Championship. And this is something I'm sure Edris Enofe was very happy to hear, because he knows that this is where he has to step up the game. However, while this was happening, some of the referees informed Stevie Turner, who is our Prime Minister of Evolve, something has happened in the backstage, and this time it was Danny Luna who was attacked. Last week it was Brilliant Reese. I thought it was Carly Bright, but nope, it wasn't that. So the real question is, what does this mean? We don't know. Whether these attacks are significant, that is something we haven't figured it out. Now, before our next match, we did see Vanity Project once again with their yapping about all this other stuff, you know. Of course, one of their buddies, Jackson Drake, has been chosen to be part of a 3-way match, qualifier match, for the Men's Evolve Championship. So that's the good question. But that match will take place possibly next week, and then possibly later on, that's when we crown those men, the first ever champion for that. Now, speaking of Vanity Project, members like Ricky Smoke and Brad Taylor, they team up to take on Timothy Thatcher and Sean Legacy. As you know, these guys have been nothing but a problem, because they feel like they're the ones in control and they have more statement than the others. I mean, Sean Legacy, we all know he's an amazing wrestler. Timothy Thatcher, well, one of the best technical wrestlers. And of course, Vanity Project sees them that these guys are nothing but losers. That's what they see. And of course, the obvious question is, were we going to see, of course, interference from the other members of the Vanity Project? Most likely we did, but however, it was Swipe Right with the super swipe onto Thatcher, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, they picked up the win. Now, Callie Armstrong, as you know, she is making a statement ever since, claiming that she's going to be running the entirety of the women's division in Evolve. However, of course, the one thing that bothered her was Kendall Gray, as you know, getting involved in her business, attacking her from behind. Well, she has her sights on her too, to ensure she stays down. Now, speaking of Kendall Gray, her, along with Carly Bright and 2 others, were talking about how things are rolling up in the course in the women's division in Evolve. But we will stay close to that. Now, our main event is called a play-in match. Now, whoever walks out in this match will join Sean Legacy and Edris Enofe, along with another competitor for the Fatal 4-Way for the Men's Evolve Championship. That will take place a little later. So, the real question is which out of the two alphas we've been seeing will step up. Will it be Keanu Carver or Harmon Lewis? Now, as you all know, these two men are determining who's going to be the top dog. And that's a very good question. I mean, they did everything to beat the hell out of each other, take each other out. But in the end, it was Keanu Carver that picked up the win by applying some sort of move. It looked more like a, I don't know, I can't describe it. But just like that, he picked up the win, so he in it. So he joins Edris Enofe, Sean Legacy, but the real question is who will take the 4th spot. That spot will take place next week between Jackson Drake, Lince Dorado, and Jordan Oasis. So we will see how that will come up. So as of right now, we are done with WWE Evolve. Let's move on with our last review, AEW Dynamite. Okay, AEW Dynamite. Many of you know this. We are now in the go-home show before Double or Nothing. Yes, that's right, folks. Double or Nothing is just around the corner. But the real question is, what happens before we get there? A lot of things could happen. But it started out, of course, with the face-to-face confrontation between the two finalists for the upcoming Men's Owen Hart Cup tournament, Will Ospreay and Hangman Page. Now, of course, when it comes to these face-to-faces, sometimes you need security to be around. However, Will Ospreay told security that this is something that he wants to, do this without them getting involved. Now, I have to say I give Will credit for what he was doing because I have to say he was making a good enough point for some things. For example, he said that he was talking to Tony Khan and the board of directors to make their match the main event. Now, people are saying, like, it's kind of dumb of him to say that. But Will has reasons why. He views this match as the pinnacle point who will be the one to bring back the AEW World title from the hands of Jon Moxley. So he doesn't see it like, oh, I'm the winner in it. But he does see himself, if he does win, he can go to All In and hopes to bring that belt back to AEW. But he looks at Hangman Page. You have that capability too. So he wants him to see that. He wants him to feel like you were this one person that everybody got behind. Now, of course, Hangman Page said that he wasted 2 years of his life. I mean, we all know what happened. He had to deal with Swerve. He had to get his revenge over him. And he was saying this. He's not doing this because of, bringing the back he felt like was more personal to him. And I think Will Ospreay understands him completely. But he tells him that he understands it, and of course he tells him we want to see that cowboy that we remembered all those years ago. So he tells him you need at least one friend to do that. So there was no confrontation in this entire face-to-face, and I think I give Will Ospreay the credit for that. Now, our next match, we see Jon Moxley teaming up with the Young Bucks, taking on the members of the Ops, Hobbs, and Samoa Joe. They team up with Swerve. As you know, these men will be part of the Anarchy in the Arena and Double or Nothing. Now, of course, when it comes to matches like this, who's going to build up the momentum on this one? Well, Swerve was able to do so by pinning Matt Jackson. However, all hell broke loose when, of course, a retaliation coming from the Death Riders, both Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. Then we see Shibata, Willow Nightingale, and Kenny. However, of course, Kenny was about to take out Matt, but Swerve had a better idea, so he pulled out a chair for Kenny to take out Matt. But of course, the Bucks and the Death Riders ran with their tails between their legs. So we'll see how that goes up. Now, as you all know, we've been seeing things happening with the Hurt Syndicate. As you know, MJF is now the new official member of the Hurt Syndicate. And of course, he brought Smart Bar Sterling to set up the contract and all this other stuff. So they went to the ring to handle that. However, there are those people that don't trust MJF. And of course, one of those is Dustin Rhodes along with Sammy. Of course, I'm sure Dustin Rhodes knows Sammy very well, that he has dealt with MJF before. As you know, he tells him, MVP, I respect you the most because we've been in this business for a long time. But the one thing you should know, not to trust MJF. So he's telling him that he's done this type of thing before. I mean, Sammy is one of those people that had to witness it himself. So the real question is, can the Hurt Syndicate trust MJF, or this was another game from MJF? That is the good question that we will see. So we'll stay tuned for that. Now, Renee Paquette conducts an interview with Kazuchika Okada, who, as you know, Speedball Mike Bailey specifically called them out. So there's going to have a match at for the Continental Championship at Double or Nothing. So he didn't have to say anything. So he goes, Mike Bailey, you don't call me out, I call you out. But the one thing that was weird, he usually says his trademark, bitch. He didn't even say it. I'm like, is he nervous? But I think there was one thing that Renee Paquette did stated, that Mike Bailey is currently undefeated. But the real question is, should Okada be concerned? I mean, yes and no, but he seems like he's concerned. But we'll see. But as of right now, we'll stay tuned for that. Now, our next match, we have Anthony Bowens versus Ricochet. Now, this whole thing is all about scissors. Now, we know Anthony Bowens was infamous with the scissors thing, with, of course, back with the Acclaim. And Ricochet, well, he's been using scissors for destruction and all that. However, as always, we did see Ricochet use the scissors on Anthony Bowens. And then, of course, he applied the spirit gun. However, of course, Ricochet was intending to harm more of Anthony Bowens until Mark Briscoe showed up, because later on in Double or Nothing, they will have a stretcher match. So that's going to be the first time ever in AEW Dynamite, AEW's history, to have a stretcher match. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But as always, Ricochet ran with his tail between his legs, like the coward he is. Now, as you know, the war between FTR along with Daniel Garcia and now Nigel McGuinness is going to happen. So it seems those two teams will face each other at Double or Nothing. Now, we did see another face-to-face with the finalists for the upcoming Women's Owen Hart Cup tournament, Jamie Hayter and Mercedes Moné. Now, Jamie Hayter mentioned, of course, that this isn't about, winning the title. This is about her not fading away. And I get that, because many people may or may not have forgotten about her. Me, I haven't forgotten. I'm just wondering when we should be back. And of course, Mercedes Moné, we all know her story and all this. But at some point, this thing turned into a brawl. So we know how that ends up. Now, our next match is our main event. Mina Shirakawa making her Dynamite debut to take on the former TBS champion, Julia Hart. So I thought it was a good match, and not to mention Toni Storm was watching this right from the beginning. Of course, Toni Storm knows that she had beaten her before, so the real question is this the same Mina she remembered? Well, that's a good question. But Mina was able to apply the win when she took her out with the Mina collection, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she picked up the win. However, Mina was blindsided by the arrival of Sky Blue. As you know, Sky Blue and Julia Hart, they have a bit of a connection back when the House of Black was still around. But, of course, Toni Storm showed up to help out. But things got a little interesting between both Mina and Toni Storm. Well, Mina decided to soften up Toni Storm with the Figure 4 leg lock by using the corner buckle. Now, the night did not end with just Mina Shirakawa winning the match and then try to dismantle Toni Storm. Well, the Bucks were attempting to leave because they don't believe that what Joe was saying, that they're going to hurt them. Well, they just did. We did see, of course, the Ops, Kenny Omega, Swerve, attacking not only the Bucks but also the Death Riders. There's been a lot of going on. But however, out of nowhere, Gabe Kidd showed up, as you know, being the loudmouth, talkative mercenary that he is. He took out everyone. And then, of course, we did see Nana, as you know, being choked out by Claudio. But the real question is, this is a bit of a preview that could happen at Anarchy in the Arena. So we will see what happens until then. So that's pretty much it, what we do know. So we'll leave things here as it is with AEW Dynamite. Let's wrap up our episode with some news updates. welcome to our news update. So let's begin with upcoming events. Now, as you all know, we are now heading to the next anniversary show for the Hana Kimura Memorial show called Hanabi, and it will take place on the 23rd of May. Now, of course, many of you know about Hana Kimura and her mom, as you know, Kyoko Kimura, who's also a former pro wrestler in her own right. Well, she's been doing these memorial shows since back in 2021 and has been successful. Kyoko Kimura wasn't too sure after the first one if there will be another one. Well, she's been doing it and bringing in a lot of wrestlers. Now, the real question is who's going to be participating in this year's memorial show? Well, the full card has been announced, and this was shared upon by none other than Scott Edwards, as you know, who works with Fightful Select, but at the same time, he also has connections in the Yoshi wrestling world, and this is exactly the card. First, we have Rina versus Veni, Miyuki Takase and Mika Kawasada versus Saory and Natsupoi. That's going to be awesome. They also will be facing Dash, Shizako, and Hiroyu Matsumoto. Then we have, of course, Chihiro Hashimoto and Shotaro Ashino versus Konami and Minoru Suzuki. And then we have a battle royale taking place. Then we have Seiko Tachibana versus Aja Kong. And then finally, we have Yuna versus Tai Hamna. So that's pretty much the card for the memorial Hana Kimura memorial show. So that's pretty much what we do know. Now, as you probably know, we have the upcoming later on by the end of this month, the 10th anniversary of Saory Nanu and Natsupoi. Well, they just announced the final match that's been announced, the part of the card. This one features, of course, talent from Stardom. What happened is there was a video where, of course, they went to, I'm not sure if this is Starlight Kid's apartment. Well, they gave her the invitation to appear, and she'll be teaming up with Azumi, and they will face, of course, the current Goddesses of Stardom Tag Team Champions, Wingori, Hanan, and Saida. So basically, we're going to have Starlight Kid and Azumi facing off against Saida and Hanan. So this is going to be part of that 10th anniversary. So everything's already been set, and I'm sure we will get the full card, and I'll probably will put that up at another time. And our next announcement we have is from the collaboration between Prestige Wrestling, West Coast Pro, Deadlock Pro Wrestling for the United event that will take place on June 1st. They announced Jordan Cruz versus Starboy Charlie. MLW has announced for the annual War Chamber that will take place on June 7th. Now, they haven't announced yet who's going to participate. I do know there's been a bit of a war between two different groups, so that could happen. Wrestling Revolver has announced for the Cage of Horror event that will take place on the 14th of June. They announced Ninja Mac making his appearance. And then finally, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling has announced for the Montreal show Resurrection on the 5th of July, Dan Maff will be participating. Now, GCW has announced the Virtuosa, Diana Peraza, will participate in 3 shows with them. The first one will take place on July 19 in Coney Island, and then there's going to be a 2-day event at Rutherford, New Jersey in August, on the 1st and 2nd of August, from my understanding. Now, on for some developments here. We want to give congratulations to Lexi Massaro. Those who don't know who she is, Lexi is the daughter of the late Ashley Massaro, who, as you know, she was the winner of the Diva Search a long time ago. And as you all know, a couple years ago, she passed away. And everybody has been those who were close to Ashley have looked out for her daughter, Lexi. And it was announced on her Instagram page that she just graduated college. So congratulations, Lexi. I'm sure your mom is very proud of you. I'm sure it's been hard on you not having your mother by your side, but I'm glad that you're doing great, and I think many of us will be cheering for you. So congratulations, girl. Now, interesting partnership has been announced. As you know, Scott D'Amore runs Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Well, it turns out he started a partnership with Battle Arts Academy, which is run by Santino Marella. So there's going to be a partnership between those two companies. So it's interesting. For those who don't know, this Battle Arts Academy is a school based out in Canada as well. It makes sense that they would rather build a partnership with them. But of course, there are those that still believe that there is the possibility that Don Callis will try to negotiate Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling to have a partnership with AEW because of now Josh Alexander as the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian champion. It would make more sense. But we'll see. If that ever comes, I'll let you guys know. Uh, as you all know, we haven't seen Hikaru Shida since November of 2024. Well, Kenny Omega went on Twitch and kind of gave his reasons what's going on. Now, many of you who know this, this country has been dealing with right now recently with certain developments when it comes to people traveling to our country. More specifically, as you know, Hikaru Shida, who has to go home many times to renew her visa. So that was one of the most recent things that she's been dealing with. And Kenny Omega also said that it's not only just the the visas she has to take care of. Those who don't know, she does have a bunch of cats at home. So basically, she's more concerned about leaving her cats alone in a long period of time. So it's understandable. I mean, we know Mayu Iwatani talked about not leaving her pets alone, and I think some of you may think Mayu should just move to the U.S. Well, she's not like Kairi or Io Sky, and you need to get that straightened out, folks. Hikaru Shida is nothing like Mina as well either, but that's what Kenny revealed on his Twitch channel, so that's what he said. So, yeah. Now, moving on. Rossy Ogawa, as you know, talks about his feelings about Stardom. As those who know, last year in March of 2024, he was fired from Stardom due to the allegations of him poaching, certain talents. So they asked him how does he feel about Stardom, the company he founded, and this is what he said: "We're comrades here. We do this because we love it. So we don't have personal reshuffles with like Stardom. Stardom was a good experienced company, concerned about compliance. The companies are concerned of compliance. They are sensitive about rumors too. I don't know if a family atmosphere is good or not. Taro Okada, in 30 years younger than me, maybe so he was good fit for the people today, but they need to wipe out everything I created. They haven't changed names of the belts or tournaments unless they get rid of those cuts with the past. It's like my ghost is still there. Even Sayaka Kurara, Aya Sakura, those names I gave them." So it's understanding what Rossy Ogawa was saying. Like, I know he's proud of what he created and all this and that, but he feels like Stardom needs to remove everything that he created. Like saying changing the belts and the tournaments, I don't know if that's a good idea. I mean, I feel like the fans have already been accustomed to that, and I think that's going to be a little weird. And I understand Rossy Ogawa's position about that. And how do you guys feel? I mean, I got to ask you, do you think Rossy words that Taro Okada and the rest of Stardom should change like the belts and other things that he created? I mean, I feel like if they do, it's gonna be a lead of confusion, you know. And I don't know. You guys tell me. Leave your comments down below about that. Now, moving on. Many of you know this. I mentioned this, that Willow Nightingale has re-signed with AEW. Now, I know some WWE fan base are probably saying, she made a mistake going back with AEW, re-signed with AEW. That's a load of horse crap. She's better off with WWE. They're way better. Well, that may be sued, guys. But I have to say, Willow Nightingale gave her reasons why she resigned. And I have to say, she does have some good valid points on certain things. Now, this is what she said about why she chose to re-sign with AEW. "I am happy where I'm at. I think there's so much left ahead for me to do in AEW, things that I want to accomplish. But I'm just really excited to be part of something that is fresh and new. One of the most important things about AEW is that we have great international partners. I can be someone who's featured on television regularly in week and week out. I can still take a weekend off and hop on an international flight to Tokyo or Mexico City. I know that we have partners over there who are going to take care of me, and I'm just so fortunate to be able to do it because AEW allows me to do." And this was on Sports Illustrated by John Alba. So I have to say, Willow Nightingale feels like she can take a break from AEW and go to Tokyo or Mexico City, and it's true. I mean, she she knows that she can take a break from them and move to go into the international partners, and it's absolutely makes sense. So I had to say she thought this really through. So I like that out of her. And then finally, well, many of you know this. Those who are big fans of the Lucha Libre, you may know this guy's name, Hijo de Santo, or known as Son of the Saint in translation. Those who don't know who he is, Hijo de Santo is a second generation wrestler. His father was known as El Santo. I basically seen his movies. My mom grew up watching his movies, and I even met him, years ago in Comic Con with his son, Santo Jr. But there was one question that many people asked him about to Hijo de Santo about one particular subject, and I will be doing that real soon on a discussion video. It is, of course, they asked him how does he feel about the purchase of WWE to AAA. Now, keep in mind, guys, he's a legend. His father was a legend, and his opinion to me matters because he has worked with this company, and he does have some good points and something that I'm sure many people would disagree upon what he said, and this is what he actually said. And he said, "Well, look, I'm honest. I don't know what's going to happen anymore, but I think the only thing there is that the achievement with all of this is that the CML remains number one, because with all that difference I have with the council, I think it is the company that so far tried to give wrestling the dignity it deserves." So Santo is a bit more saying, look, I don't know what's going to happen with AAA. We don't know, because we do know that Triple H said they're going to keep the tradition of Lucha Libre. CML doesn't believe that's going to happen because they feel like we're going to still stick traditionally. Basically, they're trying to say they're going to monetize AAA into a WWE style thing. And Santos sees it that that's possibly where it can get. But he looks at CML like saying, they're the true, actual, traditional Mexican promotion. Now, before you guys ask me, many of you may ask, J-Rod, has he ever worked with CMLL before? He has, but he's currently banned from the promotion. It's not because of anything he did badly. It's the fact that he chose to leave the promotion willingly, out of his own accord, and this led to him with the feud with the late Paco Alonso. So, yeah. But I have to say, Santo has his own point of view, what he feels. He feels like he doesn't know what's going to happen now with AAA, but he does feel that, now that they're doing this, and most likely CML will be the only promotion that remain number one, so it would make sense. So that's pretty much it. But if there's anything else going on with the purchase between both WWE and AAA, I'll let you guys know. But as of right now, we are officially done, so let's just call it a day. Hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, well, many of you may already heard about this. AEW Collision will be airing tomorrow on Thursday, which is going to be very interesting. But that's not only that. As usual, we have TNA and Ring of Honor, but also we'll continue with more with New Japan Pro Wrestling. This time we have the B block matches, so we're going to have some interesting reviews on those. So stay tuned for that. But if there's anything else going on, I'll let you guys know. If there's any updates in the world of pro wrestling, I'll do that separately. If there's anything else, well, we'll see how things will roll. As of right now, I think we will end it here. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.